न चान्यं प्रणेहं वरेशदपीह इदं तेव पूर्णात् गोपालबालम् सदा मे मनस्या वीरस्तं किन्मये इदं ते मूकाम्बोजम् अत्यन्तनीलैः कृतं कुन्तलैः स्निग्धरक्तच गोप्या मुहुश्चुम्बितं बिम्बरक्ताधरं मे मनसा विरस्तं अलं लक्षलाभै नमो देवदामोदरानन्त विष्णो प्रसीद प्रबोधुकजालब्धिमग्नम् कृपा दृष्टिवृषियाति दीनं बतानो ग्रहाणे क्षमा मध्यं मे दक्षिदृश्याय कुबेरात्मजौ बद्धमूर्तैव यद्वा त्वया मोचितौ भक्तिभाजो कृतौ च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकामे प्रयच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो मेऽस्ति दामोदरेह तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकामे प्रयच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो मेऽस्ति दामोदरेह नमस्तेऽस्तु दाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिदाम्ने त्वदीयोदराय विश्वशदाम्ने नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमोऽनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यम् नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमोऽनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यम् नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमोऽनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यम् हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Jai Radha Damodar, Radha Damodar, Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Nila Madhav, Radha Nila Madhav, Shri Radhe. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Sudarshana. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya
Paramahansa Jagacharya Stutara Sarachishima Iskon Pratishta Vividisam Stapakacharya Vaishnava Siramani Gaura Priyajana Krishna Prema Bhakti Data Patita Pavana His Divine Grace Abhacharavina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patitu Udhari Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Jayananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai Prem Si Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vindi Ki Jai Ji Param Dayal Se Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Prem Nama Sankirtane Ka Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandan Shriman Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari महावरनाय अवतार की, गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरिनाम संकीर्तन जय की जय, चुक धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय, बृहद दंग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय, शिष्य राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय, जलोष्प श्री राधा नीला माधव की जय, श्री श्री राधा दामोदर की जय, श्री कार्तिक मास सर्वमंगल की जय, श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप के चक्रधाम की जय, परम कुंड श्री गौरनिताय की जय, श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वयं बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी शंकर भगवान की जय, भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना करुण सिंहरे भगवान की जय, गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय, श्रीमती राधा रानी की, यशोदा दामोदर माई की, all glories to the assembled bodies. All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories to the assembled bodies. All glories, glories to Sri Sri Guru Sri Gauranga. What's that little girl? Who's going to sing? Any volunteer to sing? There's a little girl over there. Okay.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pralad Lad Daine. Hiranyakashipu Vakshaha. Shilatanka Nakhalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. Vahe Narsimha Rudaye Narsimha. Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapade. Avakara Kamalavare Nakham Adut Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Kanuvinga Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare. Narsimha Dev Jaya Narsimha Dev Jaya Narsimha Dev Jaya Narsimha Dev Jaya. Jaya Narsimha प्रहलाद महाराज जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद नित्य गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल। भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय। भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय।
श्री वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रियाय केशव सत्य कृष्ण भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सत्वताय नमो नमः। वृंदायै तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य कृष्ण भक्ति प्रादे देवी सत्वताय नमो नमः। जय श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो प्रियाभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो प्रियाभिलाषी
Shri Vrindayi Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namaha. Jishmati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you as wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavana. My desire that you also grant me a residence and pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays. May I always fame, love, Shri Radha and Govinda. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shikhastakam Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanamajanam Baba Mahadavanindvapanam Shrayakari Vachandikavidaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam Ananda Buddhivardhanam Padipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Sanam Param Paravijayati Bhavata Bhaktira Itukitvayi Oinandatanujatinkaram Paritamam Vishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tavapada Pankaja Titaduli Sadisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galora Shrudharaya Bharanam Gadagadharudaya Gira Pulakain Chitam Bapukada Tavanam Grahane Bhavisati Jugaitam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravusaitam Sunyaitam Jagata Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me Aslishava Padaratam Pinastumam Adarshnar Marmahatam Karotuva Jatha Tathava Vidadhatu Lampato Matpranatastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam Ki Jai. Namama Varannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaur Tvishya Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devim Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunnavadi Pachatyari Shatarine. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads rays the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we always are anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names, like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a lord and stroll in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause of divorce from service, birth to birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet some or other I am falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if sandals him roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shastakam Ki Jai.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatyasatarine.
So there are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1.
To
Blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names that the demigods are Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures and persons of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities, which often rated as spiritual activities, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the fellows person by the glories of the holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be retained while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisance unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees, they can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls.
Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnava Thakur Ki Jai Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Shri Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai. Om Aganyati Miranda Syagyan Anjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chi Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bande Ham Shri Guru Shri Jatahapati Kamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pradam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitamsha Stupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani Shri Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Satarine Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamani Shri Varsavanavi Devi Daikat Kipavde Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Primadhya Shri Rupanaga Bhakti Da Shri Kora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupa Nuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Saksha Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhade Padam Vijayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandamine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanaga Varayate Gora Virabhava Bhumestvam Yadasta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Sri Jagannathayate Namaha. Remember when you corrected the oops for me? Can you send me that information again? Maybe. Yeah. Vinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Dordam Gaur Brahmamanda Matya Gati Matsarva Swapadambu Jo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Dvindaranya Kalpadumada Hashimad Ratnagara Simas Nastato Shimad Radha Sila Govinda Devo Prastali Sevimanos Marami Shiman Rasa Rasaram Bhivam Sivata Tatastita Rasambina Svanir Gopir Gopinatakstviye Stuna Tapta Kanchana Gorandi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today I want to finish what we're talking about on Canto 3, Chapter 6, text number 9. And then we'll go back to our normal program next tomorrow. Actually, it's Canto 3, Chapter 6, text number 10. And it says, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam, Grantaraj ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Smaran Vishwa Srijam Isho Vijapitam Ahoksaja Virajam Atapatsvena Teja Saisam Vivitaye. Smaran, remembering Vishrasijam of the demigods, entrusted with the task of cosmic construction. Isha, the Supreme Lord. Vijnapitam, as he was prayed for. Ahoksaja, the transcendence. Virajam, the gigantic universal form. Atapat, considered thus. Swena, by his own. Tejasa, energy. Esham, for them. Vivitaye, for understanding. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The impersonalists are captivated by the gigantic universal form of the Supreme. They think, The Supreme Lord is the super soul of all the demigods, entrusted with the task of constructing cosmic manifestation. Being thus prayed to by the demigods, he thought to himself and thus manifested the gigantic form for their understanding. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The impersonalists are captivated by the gigantic universal form of the Supreme. They think that the control behind this gigantic manifestation is imagination. Intelligent persons, however, can estimate the value of the cause by observing the wonders of the effects. For example, the individual human body does not develop from the womb of the mother independently, but because the living entity, the soul, is within the body. Without the living entity, a material body cannot automatically take shape or develop. When any material object displays development, it must be understood that there is a spiritual soul within the manifestation. The gigantic universe has developed gradually, just as the body of a child develops. The conception that the transcendence enters within the universe is, therefore, logical, as the materialists cannot find the soul and the supersoul within the heart. Similarly, for want of sufficient knowledge, they cannot see that the Supreme Soul is the cause of the universe. The Lord is therefore described in the Vedic language as Avan Manasa Gokchara, beyond the conception of words and minds. Okay, I want to stop right there. This is further explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and also in the Krishna book. Chapter 87. And it's the prayers by the personified Vedas. Now, it's a very long chapter, but near the end is where I'm going to read from. It's very close to the end, and it says, and it starts with the sentence, the idea is that because God and his knowledge are both unlimited, as soon as God is cognizant of some of his energies, he perceives that he has still more energies. Do you see that? It's about 4 or 5 pages before the end. Here it's close to 10 pages before the end. Anyway, the idea is that because God and his knowledge are both unlimited, as soon as God is cognizant of some of his energies, he perceives that he has still more energies. In this way, both his energies and his knowledge increase. Now you remember when we said that the living entity, you and me, are coexistent with God as far as eternity is concerned, but not when it comes to knowledge and it's not as far as it comes to knowledge and energy, because Krishna is increasing his energy and knowledge all the time. So, therefore, he perceives that he has still more energies. In this way, both the energies and his knowledge increase. Because both of them are unlimited, there is no end to the energies and no end to the knowledge with which to understand the energies. God is undoubtedly omniscient, meaning he knows everything. But the personified Vedas say that even God himself does not know the full extent of his energies. This does not mean that God is not omniscient. It doesn't mean that he doesn't know everything. When an actual fact is unknown to a certain person, this is called ignorance or lack of knowledge. This is not applicable to God. However, because he knows himself perfectly, but still, as his energies and activities increase, he also increases his knowledge to understand them. Both are increasing unlimitedly, and there is no end to it. In that sense, it can be said that even God himself does not know the limit of his energies and qualities. The key word is the limit. There's no limit to it. So, because it's his knowledge, his energies and his knowledge of his energies are always increasing. Or as it says, there is a competition between increment and measurement. Right? So, as far as being coexistent with God, because we have an eternal soul and he has an eternal soul, we are equal in that sense. But when it comes to energy and knowledge, we're not equal to God because he is always increasing his energies and therefore increasing his knowledge of his energies. Right. Okay. But still, as his energies and activities increase, he also increases his knowledge to understand them. Both are increasing unlimitedly, and there is no end to it. In that sense, it can be said that even God himself does not know the limit of his energies and qualities, because there's no limit. It's always increasing. How God is unlimited in his expansion of energies and activities can be roughly calculated by any sane and sober living entity. Wow. It is said in the Vedic literature that innumerable universes issue forth when Mahavishnu exhales, and his yoga nidra, in his yoga nidra, in his sleeping form, right? And that innumerable universes enter his body when he again inhales. We have to imagine that these universes, which according to our limited knowledge are expanded unlimitedly, are so great that the gross and subtle ingredients, the five elements of the cosmic manifestation, namely earth, water, fire, air, and sky, along with the total material energy and false ego, are not only within the universe, but cover the universe in 7 layers, each layer 10 times bigger than the previous one. So in other words, how much of the universe do we actually see? And I think we looked that up.
Yeah.
Right? How much was it? Like 5%?
It's much less than that.
No, really? Why don't you look it up again? How much of the universe do the scientists say we actually see? So we have to imagine that these universes, which according to our limited knowledge are expanded unlimitedly, are so great that the gross and subtle elements, the 5 elements of the cosmic manifestation, namely earth, water, fire, air, and sky, along with the total material energy and false ego, are not within the universe but cover the universe in 7 layers, each layer 10 times bigger than the previous one. What's it say?
5% of the universe is visible.
Yeah, 5%. So you see, most of the universe we don't see. And so what do scientists know about and the 5% that we may be able to see, we don't really understand that either. Right? The scientists don't really understand that either. They might say, oh, well, we know this, we know that, but there are many, many things they don't know about the visible universe. And how about the invisible universe, which is much greater than the 95% that they're not seeing?
How did they calculate? How did they calculate 5% if they don't know the 100%?
Well, you have to ask them. I don't know.
That's also a doubt question.
Maybe, maybe not. You never know. You know. You see, they are what you call, gurus. So you just have to accept what the guru says, But they're not. They're actually kangaroos. They're not real gurus. But people just accept what they say. Just like you just asked the question, how do they know it's only 5%? You would have to, ask them, I guess. Or you have to maybe look it up at the Encyclopedia Britannica or somewhere, or maybe go on the internet and ask the question in Quora. How do the scientists know that they're only seeing 5% of the universe? You can do that, and then some bright guy will give you a speculation of how they know. So it says, but so it says the total material energy and force are not only within the universe, but cover the universe in 7 layers, each layer 10 times bigger than the previous one. In this way, each and every universe is very securely packed, and there are numberless universes. All these universes float within the innumerable pores of the transcendental body of Mahavishnu. It is stated that just as the atoms and particles of dust are floating within the air, along with the birds, and their number cannot be calculated, so innumerable universes are floating within the pores of the transcendental body of the Lord. For this reason, the Vedas say that God is beyond the grasp of our knowledge. Avan manasa gochara. So that's quoted in this purport that we just read. I mean, the purport to the verse that we read today. On the second paragraph, right at the end, it says, the Lord is therefore described in the Vedic language as Avan manasa gochara, beyond the conception of words and mind. To understand the length and breadth of God is beyond the jurisdiction of our mental speculation. Therefore, a person who is actually learned and sane does not claim to be God, but tries to understand God, making distinctions between spirit and matter. By such careful discrimination, one can clearly understand that the Supreme Lord is transcendental to both the superior and inferior energies, although he has a direct connection with both. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains that although everything is resting on his energy, he is different or separate from the energy. So that's the 9th chapter, 4th and 5th verse. Especially the 4th verse. Let's take a look at that. Just be sure that's right. Yeah. So it says, Mayatatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhute matstani sarvabhutani nachahamte sovastita. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. The unmanifested form is referring to Paramatma. I am not in them. There it is right there. So it says here, by such careful discrimination, one can clearly understand that the Supreme Soul is transcendental to both the superior and inferior energies, although he has a direct connection with them, with both. So the superior energy is the jiva. The inferior energy is material energy. So he's transcendental to both of them, as he says in this verse. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Although he has a direct connection with both. How does he have a direct connection with both? As Paramatma. You see how Prabhupada never deviates, never, you would say, contradicts something he has said previously, right? Or something that's said in Bhagavad Gita. Nature and the living entities are sometimes designated as Prakriti and Purusha, respectively. Okay, sometimes designated, right? because the real Purusha is Krishna. But sometimes the living entity is also called Purusha because he's trying to enjoy the material nature. That's why he uses the word sometimes. It doesn't mean that the living entity is the real Purusha. It means that sometimes they act like the Purusha, the enjoyer. But their constitutional position is to be enjoyed. They are also Prakriti. Nature and living entities are sometimes designated as Prakriti and Purusha, respectively. The whole cosmic manifestation is an amalgamation of Prakriti and Purusha. So amalgamation. Now, there's a difference. He didn't say they are chemically bonded. He says amalgamation. Now, look up the word amalgamation. You have to understand what that means. It's different than chemically bonded. Amalgamation means they come together, but they're not actually mixed.
So this one is the action, process or result of combining or uniting. So that's the broad definition.
Second definition?
So an amalgamation is a combination of two or more entities into a new entity. It is it's also given in the context of companies and compounds. So
Third definition.
It's a consolidation is another definition. Consolidation.
Any other
Blend, coalesce, commingle, fuse, merge, mingle, or mix. So to combine into more or less a uniform whole, that's another one. So let's see.
Do they break down the word into the origin? Like it could be from Greek or Latin or.
So it is medieval Latin and English. The Latin word was amalgamare, and then English it became amalgamate.
So what does the Latin say?
The Latin. So combine or unite to form one organization or structure.
That's the Latin definition?
Are formed into a soft mass. That's the Latin equivalent.
So combine or unite to make what?
To form one organization or structure. So the Latin specific meaning is formed into a soft mass.
Okay. All right, so let me show you what Prabhupada says. He says, I'm going to have to find okay, I have to find it. I'll come back to that. All right, so therefore, the whole cosmic manifestation is an amalgamation of Prakriti and Purusha. Okay, no, I understand now. What?
I think what here the definitions we found is basically two entities coming into form a bigger group, right? So I think this like resemble with what Prakriti and Purusha coming together to form a bigger entity kind of
No,
thing.
but I made a little mistake here. I was thinking that it combines with Krishna. No, it says that Prakriti, the material nature, and the individual soul combine. Right? Nature is the ingredient cause, and the living entities are the effective cause. These two causes combine together, and the effect is the cosmic manifestation. When one is fortunate enough to come to the right conclusion about this cosmic manifestation and everything going on within it, he knows it to be caused directly and indirectly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna is present in the heart. Does he combine with the body? No. The soul is also present in the heart. Does the soul actually combine with the material body? No. It looks like that, but it's not combined. So here it says it is combined. So it looks like it's combined, but it's not combined because the soul is always eternal. It doesn't combine and become non-eternal, right?
It is, I think the other phrase Prabhupada uses is encaged.
Yes, yes. Now there's another place. I have to find that quote by Prabhupada. I don't have time right now to look it up. I'll find it for tomorrow. So these two causes combine together, and the effect is the cosmic manifestation. Okay. Nature is the ingredient cause, and the living entities are the effective cause. These two causes combine together, and the effect is the cosmic manifestation. When one is fortunate enough to come to the right conclusion about the cosmic manifestation and everything going on within it, he knows it to be caused directly and indirectly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's concluded in the Brahma Samhita, therefore, Ishvara Paramakrishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. So basically, Prabhupada, what he's explaining here is the scientists, they just reject the existence of a soul, and they reject the existence of Paramatma, and they just talk about matter, right? But actually, there is some kind of a combination of matter and soul with the jiva, and also with Krishna. Right? But previous to this, he did say that it says, by such careful discrimination, one can clearly understand that the Supreme Soul is transcendental to both the superior and inferior energies. Superior energy is the jiva, inferior energy is matter. Although he has a direct connection with both. So a direct connection doesn't mean he's combined, but somehow or other he's connected to both because he's present within both the jiva and matter, every atom of matter, as the supersoul. After much deliberation and consideration, when one has attained the perfection of knowledge, one comes to the conclusion that Krishna or God is the original cause of all causes. Instead of speculating about the measurement of God, whether he is so long or so wide, or falsely philosophizing, one should come to the conclusion of the Brahma Samhita, Krishna or God is Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. That is the perfection of knowledge. So the scientists are more concerned about, well, how big is he, how wide is he, or they make up some false philosophy. Why waste your time with all that, he's saying? Because it's only going to mislead you. Better you just accept what Krishna says in Brahma, what Brahma says in Brahma Samhita. That is, Sarva Karana Karanam, Krishna is the cause of all causes. That is the perfection of knowledge. Thus the Veda Stuti, or the prayers offered by the personified Vedas to Garbhodakshay Vishnu, were first narrated in disciplic succession by Sanandana to his brothers. He's talking about the four Kumaras here. Sanandana heard directly from Narayana about this subject. And then he taught his brothers, all of whom were born of Brahma at the beginning of the universe. So all these four Kumaras are coming from Brahma as his sons. Right? Okay, so thus the Veda Stuti, or the prayers offered by the personified Vedas. What does it mean, a personified Veda? What do you think it means? It means they're persons, right? And you'll see them, if you ever go to the spiritual world, you'll see them. They're standing near Narayan. And they're glorifying him always, right? It's a very grandiose thing. You know. And these are prayers offered by the personified Vedas to Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And these prayers were first narrated in disciplic session by Sanandana to his brothers, all of whom were born of Brahma at the beginning of the universe. The four Kumaras were the firstborn sons of Brahma. Therefore, they are known as Purva Jata. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the Parampara system, or the disciplic succession, begins with Krishna himself. Similarly, here, in the prayers of the personified Vedas, it is to be understood that the Parampara system begins with the personality of Godhead, Narayana Rishi. Okay, now, there's Narayana and there's Narayana Rishi. Now, let's see how he's going to explain Narayana Rishi. We should remember that this Veda Stuti, these prayers of the personified Vedas, is narrated by Kumara Sanandana, and the narration is repeated by Narayana Rishi in Badarik Ashrama. Narayana Rishi is the incarnation of Krishna for showing us the path of self-realization by undergoing severe austerities. Okay, so we have first the four Kumaras. They received this knowledge from Narayana. And then they taught it to the personified Vedas, who recited for Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And then the four Kumaras also recited it or taught it to Narayana Rishi, who is an incarnation of Krishna. We should remember that this Veda Shruti is narrated by Kumara Sanandana, and the narration is repeated by Narayana Rishi in Badarik Ashrama. So it doesn't mean he taught it, but he first narrated it, and it was repeated by Narayana Rishi. Narayana Rishi is the incarnation of Krishna for showing us the path of self-realization by undergoing severe austerities. In this age, Lord Chaitanya demonstrated the path of pure devotional service by putting himself in the role of a pure devotee. Similarly, in the past, Lord Narayana Rishi was an incarnation of Krishna who performed severe austerities in the Himalayan ranges. Sri Narada Muni was hearing from him. So in the statement given by Narayana Rishi to Narada Muni, as narrated by Kumara Sanandana in the form of the Veda Suti, it is understood that God is the one supreme and that all others are his servants. Okay. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is stated, Ekale Ishvara Krishna. Krishna is the only supreme God. Ara Sava Britya. All others are his servants. Yare Yaiche Nachaya Se Taiche Karinritya. The Supreme Lord, as he desires, is engaging all the living entities in different activities, and thus they exhibit their different talents and tendencies. This Veda Stuti is thus the original instruction regarding the relationship existing between the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The highest platform of realization for the living entity is the attainment of devotional life. One cannot be engaged in devotional life or Krishna consciousness unless one is fully free from material contamination. So that we have said many times, right? And that's what's being said in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 28. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. So we have to be free of our previous karma to be able to engage in devotional service. But that can happen very quickly if we accept the 4 regulative principles and follow them seriously and chant Hare Krishna minimum 16 rounds a day. Narayana Rishi informed Narada Muni that the essence of all the Vedas and Vedic literatures, namely the 4 Vedas and the Upanishads and the Puranas, is to render transcendental loving service to the Lord. In this connection, Narayana Rishi has used one particular word, rasa. In devotional service, this rasa is the via medium, or the basic principle for the exchange of dealings between the Lord and the living entity. Rasa is also described in the Vedas as raso vai sa. The Supreme Lord is the reservoir of all pleasure. All the Vedic literatures, including the Puranas, the Vedas, and Upanishads, and the Vedanta Sutra, teach living entities how to attain the stage of rasa. Rasa means the relishable relationship with Krishna, right? Which is servitorship and friendship and parental relationship and conjugal relationship. All the Vedic literatures, including the Puranas, the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Vedanta Sutra, teach the living entities how to attain the stage of rasa. The Bhagavatam also says that the statements in the Mahapurana, Srimad Bhagavatam, constitute the essence, meaning rasa, of all Vedic literature. Nigama kalpataror galitam phulam. The Bhagavatam is the essence of the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic literature. We understand, well, what does it mean? It means if you hear Bhagavatam, you understand that there are relishable relationships with Krishna, direct relationships in the spiritual world. We can experience them to a certain extent in the material world, but when we're liberated, then we experience them fully. And they are relishable. In other words, you never grow tired of them because they're always increasing. The Bhagavatam also says that the statements in the Mahapurana, Srimad Bhagavatam, constitute the essence, meaning rasa, which is relishable relationship with Krishna through service, of all Vedic literature. Nigama kalpataror galitam phulam. The Bhagavatam is the essence of the ripened fruit of the tree of the Vedic literature. We understand that with the breathing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there issued forth the 4 Vedas, namely the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and the Atharva Veda, and also the histories like the Mahabharata and all the Puranas, which are considered to be the history of the world. The Vedic histories like the Puranas and the Mahabharata are called the 5th Veda. The 28 verses of the Veda Stuti are to be considered the essence of all Vedic knowledge. The 4 Kumaras and all other authorized stages know perfectly that devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the essence of all Vedic literatures. And they preach this on different planets, traveling in outer space. It is stated herein that all such sages, including Narada Muni, hardly ever travel on land. They perpetually travel in space. Okay, so there's something very important here. The 28 verses of the Veda Stuti. Let's see where those 28 verses are. must be part of the prayers of the personified Vedas. Okay, that's our homework. Find where those 28 verses are. 28 verses of the Veda Stuti. The Veda Stuti is what is being spoken. We should remember that this Veda Stuti is narrated by Kumara Sanandana, and the narration is repeated by Narayana Rishi in Badarik Ashram. So that's the hint where we'll find it. That's in the Bhagavatam, definitely in the Bhagavatam, in the later parts of the Bhagavatam. And that's where the prayers of the personified Vedas are. And this is near the end of the Krishna book. And Krishna book is a summary of the entire 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's got to be somewhere in the 10th canto. Okay, look up Veda Stuti, S-T-U-T-I, on the internet. See where it takes you. Sages like Narada and the Kumaras travel throughout the universe to educate the conditioned souls, and their business in the world is not that of sense gratification, but of reinstating themselves in their original position of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is stated in several places that the living entities are like sparks of the fire, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is like the fire itself. If the sparks somehow or other fall out of the fire, they lose their natural illumination. Thus it is ascertained that the living entities come into this material world exactly as sparks fall from a great fire. The living entity wants to imitate Krishna and tries to lord it over material nature in order to enjoy sense gratification. Thus he forgets his original position, and his illuminating power, his spiritual identity, is extinguished. However, if a living entity takes to Krishna consciousness, he is reinstated in his original position. To preach this process of devotional service, sages and saints like Narada and the Kumaras travel all over the universe, educating people and increasing their disciples. Their aim is that all the conditioned souls may be educated to revive their original consciousness, or Krishna consciousness, and thus gain relief from the miserable conditions of material life.
I think it's the 10th canto, 87th chapter.
Well, that's what we're reading from now. This is the 87th chapter.
This is a Krishna book, right, Maharaj? But that one is also 10th.
We have to look it up in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah, that's what it said. Let me.
But yeah, if I look carefully, I bet I would find it. It has to be here because it's mentioned here. It's in the 87th chapter. But can you open it up? And
Yeah, I'm just.
this is the 87th chapter. Let's see, it's in a prose format, so you have to look very carefully to see where he starts, where he. Oh, I see. The next prayer of the personified Vedas to the Lord concerns his entering into different species of life. Okay, this is near the beginning. Go ahead. You said.
Yeah, I think.
Starts with the 10th chapter, 10th canto, 87, text 14.
14. He starts reciting the Veda Stuti.
Yeah, so this say, yeah, text 14 starts there.
The Shruti said. Yeah, 1087:14.
Okay, good. So I'll look that up. We can all look that up. and read it.
14 to 41, Maharaj.
What?
14 to 41.
14 to 41. Those are the pages or the what? Text.
Yeah, here it says on the 14th verse, it is summarized as in the purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the 28 verses of the prayers of the personified Vedas, that is text 14 to 41, represent the opinions of each of the 28 major Shrutis. The chief Upanishads and other Shrutis concern themselves with various approaches of the absolute truth. So, you are looking in the Krishna book, right, Maharaj? We are talking about in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah, it says here, once when Narada, the great devotee and ascetic amongst the demigods, was traveling among different planets, he desired to meet the ascetic Narayana personally in Barak Ashram and offer him respects. This great sage, incarnation of Godhead, Narayana Rishi, has been undergoing great penances and austerities from the very beginning of the creation to teach the inhabitants of Bharatvarsa how to attain the highest perfectional stage of going back to Godhead. His austerities and penances are exemplary practices for the human being. The incarnation of God, Narayana Rishi, was sitting amongst many devotees in the village known as Kalapagrama. Of course, these were not ordinary sages sitting with him, and a great sage, Narada, also appeared there. After offering his respects to Narayana Rishi, Narada asked him exactly the same question that King Parikshit asked Sukadeva Goswami. Then the Rishi answered by following in the footsteps of his predecessors. He narrated a story of how the same question had been discussed on the planet known as Janaloka, which is above the Swarga Loka planets, such as the Moon and Venus. On this planet, great sages and saintly persons live, and they once discussed the same point regarding the understanding of Brahman and his real identity. The great sage Narayana began to speak. "My dear Narada," he said, "I shall tell you a story which took place long, long ago. There was a great meeting of the denizens of the heavenly planets, and almost all the important brahmacharis, such as the four Kumaras, Sananda, Sanaka, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara, attended. Their discussion was on the subject of understanding absolute truth, Brahman. You were not present at that meeting because you had gone to see my expansion, Aniruddha, who lives on the island of Swetadvipa." He's talking about the super soul now. In this meeting, all the great sages and brahmacharis very elaborately discussed the point about which you have asked me, and it was very interesting. The discussion was so delicate that even the Vedas were unable to answer the intricate questions raised. Wow. Narayana Rishi told Naradaji that the same question Naradaji had raised had been discussed in that meeting on Jano Loka. This is the way of understanding through the parampara or disciplic succession. Maharaj Parikshit questioned Sukadeva Goswami, and Sukadeva Goswami referred the matter to Narada, who had in the same way questioned Narayana Rishi, who had put the matter to still higher authorities on the planet of Jano Loka, where it was discussed among the great Kumaras, Sanatana, Sanaka, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara. These four brahmacharis, the Kumaras, are recognized scholars in the Vedas and other Shastras. Their unlimited volumes of knowledge, backed by austerities and penances, are exhibited by their sublime ideal character. They are very amiable and gentle in behavior, and for them, there is no distinction between friends, well-wishers, and enemies. Being transcendently situated, such personalities as the Kumaras are above all material considerations and are always neutral in respect to material dualities. In the discussions held among the four brothers, one of them, namely Sanandana, was selected to speak, and the other brothers became the audience to hear him. Sanandana said, "After the dissolution of the whole cosmic manifestation, the entire energy and the whole creation in its nucleus form enter into the body of Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. The Lord at that time remains asleep for a long, long time, and when there is, again, necessity of creation, the Vedas personified assemble around the Lord and begin to glorify him, describing his wonderful transcendental pastimes, exactly like servants of a king when the king is asleep in the morning, and appointed reciters come around his bedroom and begin to sing of his chivalrous activities, and while hearing of his glorious activities, the king gradually awakens. The Vedic reciters, or the personified Vedas, sing thus, O unconquerable Lord, you are the supreme personality of God. Okay, so that's the beginning right there. Yeah. You see, I've read this before, but I don't remember anything. I have to read it very carefully again. You see why repetition is so important. You know. Okay. So what time is it now? Yeah, it's 7:15. Yeah. All right, we'll stop right there and continue tomorrow. It's a big subject. And what is the subject that we're talking about? It's how the material creation takes place. And there's a lot to it. You know, you have to know a lot of things to be able to explain it. It's not ABCD. It is ABCD all the way to Z, right? So you can see the scientists don't understand anything. Very, very little. Very, very little.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Yes.
I have just one clarification. I mean, we just read about the Vedic knowledge is transferred from the personified Vedas to Narayan Rishi and the Kumaras, and from Kumaras to Narayan Rishi and all. But I was a little confused because this is the first time I read. Earlier, which like my understanding was from Krishna to Brahma, and from Brahma to Narada, and from this. So is it parallel? Because
That's a good question.
because Brahma is not anymore in the chain we just
No, he
read.
is. He is. He's the guru of Narada.
Yeah, but now what it came through, like as we just read, right? It's coming from the personified Vedas to four Kumaras, and from four Kumaras to
but
Narayan Rishi.
No, wait a minute. Who taught Narayan? Who taught Brahma? Is Narayana. And then Brahma teaches Narada. And then Narada gets instructed by Narayana Rishi. More instruction. And so that does not break the disciplic succession. It's just that Narayana Rishi is an incarnation of Narayana or Krishna. So just like Lord Chaitanya is an incarnation, right? He's Radha and Krishna combined. He also performs austerities. So you see, he can come as Narayana Rishi, or he can come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It doesn't break or confuse the parampara. It strengthens it. Okay. So it's not that there's another sampradaya here. Narayana Rishi is an incarnation of who? Of Narayana. But he's performing austerities. Lord Chaitanya is what? He's an incarnation, or he's an expansion of Radha and Krishna combined. And he's also performing austerities and teaching Krishna consciousness. So there's no limit to what Krishna can do. Now we're beginning to see more deeply into that. There's no limit. He can do all these things. He's not limited. He can appear millions of times. Right? And every time he can speak the same knowledge and inspire other people. Okay. So, yeah, if you want to read, you go to the Bhagavatam and read the 87th chapter. I mean, it's in here, but this is a prose form of it. In the Bhagavatam, the verse form is there. with the purports. So that'll give us more understanding. Haribol. Haribol.
I have a question.
Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, how does Krishna hold the energies? Because he is different from all the energies, so how does he control them?
Because he expands himself also as the Paramatma or Super Soul and enters into every atom of the universe and in the heart of every living entity. Like right now, Krishna is in your heart right now in the form of Paramatma. And he's witnessing everything you do. He's also present in every cell of your body as Paramatma. Right? Because every cell in your body is also an individual living entity. You have 2 billion cells. So you're the primary cell, or primary jiva, and you have a kingdom with 2 billion people that you're managing. So if you start eating junk food and things like that, they could revolt against you and you'll get cancer. So you have to be careful. No junk food. You know what junk food is? Yeah.
I have one more question.
Yes.
Does the knowledge and energy get old or go back to birth, so it like bounces off old and goes back to earth and then goes old back to birth?
It never gets old. It only increases.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah, because truth never gets old, but it can increase. That's what's happening in the spiritual world. That's why no one is bored in the spiritual world, because everything's increasing. Whereas in the material world, let's say you buy a toy, and you play with it, and then you break something, and eventually you throw the toy away. See, that's the material world. Things break over time, and then you throw them away. The spiritual world, nothing breaks, but they increase. So you never, you say, well, I'm tired of playing with this toy, and anyway, part of it is broken, so I just throw it away. That doesn't happen in the spiritual world. Nothing gets broken, nothing is thrown away, but everything is increasing. So you're never bored. You never say, Daddy, I'm bored. No. Because everything is dynamic and increasing in the spiritual world. So happiness is always increasing. Haribol.
And one more question.
Yeah.
When you were speaking about the elements, air and sky are technically the same thing because they both have air in them.
No. The air, like, let's say you have a balloon, right? There's air in the balloon. Is the balloon the same as the air?
No.
It's the same thing, the sky. The sky is containing the air, but it's different than the air.
So it's like the sky is solid. So the sky is the balloon that's covered in air.
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that. The sky is more subtle than a balloon, but it is containing. The air is inside the sky. Those are good questions. You see, this is an example. He can bring a kid, it could be even 3 years old, but they get something like, Gopal Krishna, right? They always get something out of the class. It's not that, they can't come because they have to be on a level of kindergarten. No. They have the ability to understand just as well as older kids do. Even if they just understand one thing, that's already a big advancement. Yeah, you want a sheet? Okay, 1 second. Shri Guru Charana. Okay, there you go.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Bandhamui Savadana Mate
Quando mui sabadana mate
Jara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jai
Nara prasade e bhavatoriya jai
Krishna Prapti Hoy Ja Hoy Te
Krishna prapti hoya hoite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya
Adana Koriyo Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane
Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Ese Utamagati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttamagati
Je Prasad De Pure Sarva Asha
He Prasade Pure Sarva
Asha Chakshudan Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Chakshudan Dila Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Divya Gyan Hede Prakashito
Divya Gyani De Prakasito
Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jaite
Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate
Vede Gai Jahara Charito
Vedega Janara Charito
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu
Adama Janara Bandhu
Bandhu
Lokenath Lokera Jivana
Lokera Jivana
Ha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Padachaya
Aha Prabhu Kura Doya Deha Muri Pada Jaya
Ebe Jas Goshek Bhuvana
Vyas Sakti Bhuvana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Bhupat Patita Pavana
Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Naresaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamini
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvichesha Sunyavadi Yoskatya Rizatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda
Jaya Shri
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol
Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajagachasta Tarasatari Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vindi ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Mayapura Dham ki jai, Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shiguru and Shiguranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan ki jai, Haribol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Buddha Shimata Bhakti Swanta. Namaste. The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way
by which we can attain pure devotional service. Bow to the lotus feet with great awe and reverence.
By His grace,
one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from His lotus mouth. Attachment to His lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him static Brahma emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. His spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto me. Give us shade at your lotus feet. Your famous spread all over the three worlds.
We take shelter at lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan.